Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of This Organized Life. I'm your host, Lori Palau. Happy that you are here. If you're brand new to our show, welcome. We uh, we've been doing this for I don't know a hot minute, and that's an understatement. We've been doing this since 2017, and we've got close to 500 episodes out there, plus our tip of the weeks, which is are the episodes that we release every Monday. So we got lots and lots of content for you guys out there. If you're looking for something in particular on a specific topic, whether it is relating to a particular space in the house, or maybe you're struggling with a specific issue like getting organized with ADHD or trying to, understand some other, you know, roadblocks that you might be having, let us know how we can help. We've got, like I said, tons of content out there on a variety of different topics. We actually have a workshop series that's coming up. If you haven't already heard of it, it's called our Clutter Clinic workshop series, where each workshop focuses in on different area of the house or a different area pain point of clutter. And the first one that we're going to be talking about in the beginning of April is all about closets. And we're talking primary closets, we're talking guest room closets, we're talking linen closets, hallway closets, just any type of closet. So it's a great live workshop where I'll be teaching to you guys. There'll be time for Q&A at the end. So it's great. We'll have a link below in the show notes. So please, whether you're new or old, we encourage you to come join us. And it's super fun and actionable, if I could speak. And I hope to see you guys there. But I'm excited for today's topic because it is it's from one of you guys. It's part of our Ask an Expert series. And again, our Expert series was something that we developed, I guess it was like maybe a year ago, because people would write in and ask me their questions. And so I decided, hey, let me answer them on the air because chances are, if you have this question, you are not the only one who has it. There are other people out there. So as opposed to me just messaging people back, one individually, let's just bring this to the light. Let's just bring this all into the light. And so I love this particular ask an expert question. And this particular one came from Stephanie up in New Hampshire. And Stephanie asks, how do I get my family to help with organizing instead of undoing all of my hard work? And I feel like so many people can relate to this. This is a very, very common struggle. And a lot of people are dealing with this for different reasons. And I'm going to go through kind of five different possible solutions or ways that you can address it. And then I want to talk about some like homework for you if this is something that you have been struggling with, things that you can think about to kind of look at what could I do differently. So one of the first things is let's just run through some practical things. And you might be doing some of them. So that's great, but there might be some that you have not done. So let's just talk about them. The first thing is you can give everybody ownership. What does that mean? A lot of times people feel like they're undoing all my hard work because I'm the gatekeeper of all of the things, and nobody else has ownership. And so I do it all. And then people come in and undo it, but they don't have any skin in the game. And so they've never been taught how to be self sufficient in an area. And so if you are somebody that is maybe a little bit of a control freak, maybe you like to have it done your way, or maybe you just feel that this has been your role and you've been the one that's kind of doing all the things. And that could pertain to laundry, it could pertain to making beds, it could mean I don't know. I have parents that send their kids emails to their teachers. Like, there's so many, the list is endless, whether it's doing stuff for your spouse or your partner or your kids. Look at what are the things that I could get some buy-in and allow other people to own part of the process. And again, I want to be very, very clear in distinguishing between helping out people in your house and saying, hey, I'm going to help you, you're busy, versus I need to do everything, I need to control the situation. And what you want to do is say, hey, listen, you're busy. I'll help fold your laundry or I'll put it away or whatever the situation is, or I'll throw your laundry in. That's being helpful and being just like a good, kind team player versus I'm going to do all the things because I'm the mom or I'm the dad or I'm the whatever, and I have to do it all. So it's changing that narrative and allowing everybody else to have a certain piece of ownership. The second thing is making the systems that you put into place very, very simple. One of the biggest roadblocks of why people get frustrated and things just don't happen is because the system is too complicated. So making it really, really easy for other people to do it. If you're the one that's creating the system, let's say it is putting away toys. If you're expecting the kids to go put a bin in a box in the cabinet in the labeled thing, it's oftentimes way harder than just say, here's our bin of stuff. Or if you're asking them to chronologically alphabetize their books or put them in color order, as opposed to just putting them on the shelf, you're making the barrier of entry that much harder. So I always say, please keep your system simple. And this isn't just for kids, this is for adults. You want to make your drop zones very easy. You want to make accessing your clothes and putting it away very easy. You want to make getting toys, putting them away super simple. So the easier the system is, the less excuses that you have for not being able to do it. And the easier it is, that means the quicker it's usually able to be executed. And then people are more likely to do it because they know it's not going to take a while. Okay, the third thing is to give a reset time. And this is when I talk about building that margin into your daily routine. So if you're like, my bed is never made, I'm the last, maybe your spouse is the last one out the door and maybe they need to get up a little bit earlier, or the breakfast dishes are always staying in the sink. Well, maybe we need to give ourselves a little bit more time in the morning to put that away. Whatever the situation is, look at why are we not following through? Why is that last 10% not happening? Why is the playroom not getting cleaned up? Why are the clothes not making their way into the hamper? Is it because, and I'm not a big fan of the word lazy, but are we being lazy or do we not have enough time? And if the answer is we don't have enough time, then we need to readjust because we can't add more time into our day, but we can take away from something else. So that means we either have to stop playing 5 minutes earlier, we have to get up 5 minutes earlier, we have to leave 5 minutes later. Whatever the situation is, you're going to have to play around with it to include that reset time. That is the time that we're going to get everything back on track before we leave the house in the morning, before we go to bed at night, and any other pockets in between. Okay. Number 4 is using positive reinforcement. And what I mean by this is so often we're always there to point out when somebody doesn't do something. When your family does follow through on doing a system that you've instituted, maybe it is your kids putting away their toys or hanging up their backpack or their jackets or putting their dishes in the dishwasher. Make sure that you acknowledge that. We want to make sure that we're acknowledging the good as much as we are with the bad. We want to give praise and let our family members know that we appreciate what they're doing, even if it is something that we've already asked them to do, just giving that positive reinforcement and letting them know that you are recognizing the fact that they are following through make means more than you probably realize. And that will also increase the motivation for them to want to do it again because they know that they're going to be getting that positive reinforcement from you. The fifth thing is decluttering or going through any type of like reset together. So if you guys say we're going to be doing, especially with like spring cleaning coming up, we've been doing a lot of talking about spring cleaning. We're coming into nicer weekends, at least here in the East Coast. And so we might be saying we're going to spend a Saturday or a couple hours on a Saturday, cleaning out the garage or going through the playroom or whatever this situation is. Doing it together takes away some of that overwhelm of you just having to do it on your own. So if you say, and I used to say all the time, we're Team Palau, this is a team sport, and getting everybody together so everybody plays a unique role in this process is a great way for it not to all land on your shoulders. A lot of times things will just land on your shoulders because you are not you've said, you go to practice, you go to your friends, you go to this. And then what happens is we wind up martyring and doing it all on ourselves. And then we're sending a message that it's okay, mom will take care of it. And we don't want to do that, right? We want to say, no, we need everybody's playing a role. And also on the flip side, mom doesn't want to be in the garage all afternoon. If we all pitch in to help, we could get this done in 2 hours. And so explaining that leads me into my next point, right? So the five things, just real quick before we run into my kind of my wrap up points, is how do I get people on board? Number one, you want to give everybody ownership. Number two, you want to make it simple. Number three, you want to make sure that you're building in reset time so that if the things that you're asking them to do are not getting done and time is the factor, let's reallocate the schedule. Number four is we want to continue positive reinforcement. We want to recognize and acknowledge when they're doing things right so that they can continue to foster that behavior. And fifth is let's do it together, especially when you're in a family unit, even though not like all roles are created equal, we want to make sure that everybody has their part and that we're maybe working together as a team. So what happens if some of this doesn't happen, or where do you even begin the conversation if it's already something that's been like off the rails? The thing that I always say, and again, if you've been with me for a while, you'll know clear, consistent communication is paramount. So many people wind up dealing with clutter and disorganization through passive aggressive methods. Now, I am a straight shooter. Maybe it's my Enneagram 8. Maybe it's just kind of how I'm wired. I don't know. I'm not into astrology. Maybe it's because I'm an Aries. I have no idea. But the reality of it is letting people know how clutter makes you feel is really, really important. And when somebody is left to pick up the pieces of somebody else's disorganization, that leaves people feeling unappreciative or ignored or dismissed or unimportant or frustrated. Those are just a few words to describe how that clutter makes you feel. And I talk about it in Hot Mess that the bigger issue for clutter is the impact it has on our emotional well-being, not just our physical space, but how it makes us feel. And if you feel that you are shouldering the burden of all the things, or you're working really hard to create an organized home and other people are not respecting that, or they are taking it for granted, that is going to have a ripple effect in your relationships. And we don't want our stuff to impact our relationships. So the first thing is before it gets to like a boiling point, have a conversation, whether that's a family meeting, whether it's one on one. But before you get to the point where you're like seeing red and you're screaming that nobody listens or whatever, you want to have a conversation. And the second thing is I want to talk about consequences. And so I call this like the C's, right? You have clear communication, conversation, and consequences. Now, the consequences come after we've set the expectation. This is what I'm expecting from you. And if you fail to do this or you fail to kind of meet that expectation, here are the consequences. And that can look differently. I'm not telling you, there's multiple different ways that you can do it, but these are kind of my top three. First of all, is what I call natural consequence. And the natural consequence is something where it's like you're going to feel the pain point. For example, your kid is disorganized and they didn't have their backpack, organized the night before. So they go to school and they forget their homework. And then they're like, they email you or text you or call you or whatever. Mom, can you bring me my homework? I forgot it. No, that's where that's a hard pass. No. And again, we're talking about repeat offenders over this is a pattern of behavior. If you have an exception to the rule, that there's always an exception to the rule, but I'm talking about a pattern of behavior of you didn't come in and organize your stuff. And so now you forgot your stuff. You are not going to bring it to them. You're going to let them get that incomplete because that's going to be a pain. That's going to hurt. That's going to sting. Another thing is, and this used as when my kids were younger and they were like in sports or extracurricular activities. Oh, I forgot my fill in the blank, my musical instrument. I forgot my cleats. I forgot my uniform. Whatever that is, I forgot something because there was a lack of planning the night before or that morning and they didn't do it. In, I can't tell you how many parents are like, I had to, and I'm air quoting for those of you who are not watching on YouTube, I had to drop my kids' stuff off at school. No, you didn't. You chose to. And moms and dads, I'm talking to you. The buck has to stop. Once your kids recognize that there are consequences for their actions, they will start to change their behavior. Until then, there is no pain point for them to recognize that they need to change because they know that mom or dad is going to hop in the car and drop it off to them. So this is where like the little bit of what I call the tough love is needed. Loss of privilege is another thing. So maybe you ask your kids to put their clothes in the hamper and they don't do it, or pick up their toys and they don't do it. This is where the consequences could come in. I mean, the loss of privilege comes in. That means maybe you're saying you're going to be losing privileges on on your device or whatever, oh, I told you to pick up your Legos and you didn't. Okay, so now you're going to lose Lego privileges for a week or whatever it is. Or, oh, you didn't clean up your clothes. Your room is still a mess. And despite my repeated asking you to do it, there's going to be some sort of consequence, whatever you feel is appropriate. But having that loss of privilege, and I try to have the punishment fit the crime, but I understand sometimes people will have to like think outside the box. But again, I think there has to be some sort of repercussion for it's less about the clothes on the floor and more about I asked you to do something and you didn't own up to were what you agreed to do or what you were told to do. So I think loss of privilege. Um, and then really the third thing is just the understanding that follow through and consistency is the key. So making a point of saying, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to do it over and over again, that repetition. And that comes from modeling behavior. And I tell people that all the time. It's still hard. If you're doing it, it's sometimes still hard to get somebody who doesn't have that natural buy-in to want to do it. But if you are not modeling that behavior, it is exponentially harder. For example, if you're somebody who doesn't make your bed and you're trying to get your kids to make their bed, and they're like, well, you don't make your bed. I understand as a parent, you could do as I say, not as I do, but it is a lot harder pill to get somebody to swallow if you are not leading by example. So I always try to tell people, please, please lead by example. And as parents, sometimes it's hard to walk past the unmade bed or not pick up after your kids or not run their stuff to school. I get it, but resisting that urge is teaching them the life lessons that we want to be doing. And in the end, if you are doing all of these things and your family is still not kind of getting the message and they're still not getting on board, this is when I tell people you don't have a clutter problem, you have a communication problem and you have a respect problem. And so understanding that, is this a relational problem or is this about the clutter and the organization? Are you empowering them to do it? Are you advocating for them to do it? Are you communicating to them that they need to be part of the solution? And if they continue to disrespect and not do it, then it is a relational problem and we need to approach it from a different perspective. But oftentimes, what I find with most people is they just need to empower their people, be very clear on the expectation, be clear on the timeline, and really remind people that the role that they play as a family member is valued and appreciated. And if you can do that over and over and over again, then you will start to see more buy-in and more contribution from your family members. So I hope this helped. If you have a question for us, please, there's several ways that you can connect with us. So easiest, if you head on over to our website on the contact page, you can either do two things. You can write your question in, right, on the contact form. You can just email us the question, or we have a SpeakPipe link, which is you can leave an audio message and you can leave it with your name and your location, or you could just do it anonymously if you prefer. And you could just voice memo us what your question is. And then we will respond and record it and put it out there for everybody. So I hope you guys found this helpful and useful. Don't forget, we have Clutter Clinic closets coming up on April 4th. It's going to be great. It's going to be fun. And the link to register is in the show notes. We're going to have the link open probably right to the very end. We want to be able to funnel as many people in. This is virtual. And as long as you're signed up, you will get a replay. If you are not registered, you will not get the replay. And we have some great information and insights. It's essentially like a live interactive podcast. So if you're listening to our show and you like this, you're going to love Clutter Clinic. So check that out. And finally, I just want to thank our sponsor for this episode, the Digital Wrangler. If digital clutter and having your stuff all over the place is an issue for you, definitely you want to check out all the amazing offerings at our friends, thedigitalwrangler.com/TOL. And until next week, I'm Lori Palau. Peace out.